Greetings, members, one and all of the Salivation Nation. Central bank digital currency is coming to the U.S. And why gold and silver matter now more than ever before. Let's explore. Silver Patriot sent me this article here from protocol.com, and I did hear a little news blurb about it today, and it reminded me that I wanted to cover this topic. It is coming closer, folks. It's on its way, and they want your input on this. The Federal Reserve will create a U.S. digital currency, but a little bit naive of the protocol with their sub-headline here. The central bank just released a 40-page study on the benefits and risk of CBDC, but didn't take an official stance. But they certainly did take a stance. Nothing is official until it becomes inscribed or becomes law, and that is one part of this. But we know where they are going. We can certainly tell. They have a long-awaited review of the potential for creating this central bank digital currency. After months' delay, ahead of making the decision, they've asked the public on 22 questions posed in the report. We're going to look at that here momentarily. And it will be the first step in the public discussion between the Federal Reserve and stakeholders about CBDC. Many in the industry have called for the creation of a U.S. CBDC, saying it could take the place of a dollar-linked stablecoins and help connect fiat and crypto transactions. China already has its own CBDC, the digital yuan, or E-CNY, and some observers suggest that the U.S. needs its own to stay competitive and maintain the dollar's dominant role in the world financial system. And that's just it. We are the dominant currency. What's threatening us now is not because of the technology of blockchain or CBDCs. The Fed report notes that the creation of CBDC will seek to complement current financial systems, not replace them. Any digital currency the central bank issued would have to protect consumer privacy while supporting faster and cheaper payments. We'll get to that momentarily because can they be mutually exclusive? I don't think so, but what do I know? However, a CBDC would also pose risk for current monetary regulations and could have large effects on the structure of financial markets. While the report didn't take a position on whether the Fed should create a digital currency, the prospect of a U.S. CBDC had drawn both criticism and support from government leaders. Fed Government Lael Brainard has been a strong advocate for a CBDC, having said that it just doesn't sound like a sustainable future without one. Minnesota Representative Tom Emmer, however, warned against it, saying that such a currency would also be used as a surveillance tool that Americans should never tolerate from their own government. I agree with that totally. While Emmer has proposed a bill that would prohibit the Fed from issuing CBDCs directly to individuals, the Fed made it clear in the report that any CBDC it creates would be intermediated. In other words, managed through existing financial institutions and not issued directly to consumers. Well, and that poses yet another problem and another question, and we will get to that momentarily too. The Fed has previously said that creating a CBDC was top priority. The development of FedNow, an instant payment service through the banks for individuals and businesses, may impact its progress. FedNow is expected to be available next year. So in a sense, they are providing direct payments through individuals with this FedNow thing, even though it's not a CBDC. Go figure. The report has also made it clear that the Fed would not proceed with a CBDC without clear support from the executive branch and from Congress. Well, for those who know anything about law and how a bill becomes law, the president certainly can play a role because he signs the legislation, but it can be overwritten as well if you have a two-thirds majority in Congress. And nonetheless, let's take a look at this. Here is the executive summary. Here's the information here. Money and payments the US dollar in the age of digital transformation. And so it's kind of a relatively long, drawn-out process here, but it talks about different things. It defines some terms about different types of money, existing forms of money, and the payment system, and how this thing would be and I should have bookmarked some of these areas here. It talks about some of the benefits of these different aspects and tools, the benefits of the benefits of a CBDC and the like. But nonetheless, a lot of this goes down to what is this the role? What is the essentially this aspect of it that talks about risk involved? There are risks involved in this type of thing, obviously, because they can track your every move. And I'm trying to find that section, and I can't seem to find it. Here it is. Privacy and data protection and the prevention of financial crimes. Any CBDC would need to strike an appropriate balance between safeguarding consumer privacy rights and affording the transparency necessary to deter criminal activity. Well, so here's their consumer privacy aspect. A general purpose CBDC would generate data about users' financial transactions in the same way commercial bank and non-bank money generates such data today, which is still a little bit scary because any transaction you make today via the internet, or even if you don't do anything via the internet, you write a check, that check is digitized and is transmitted through the internet, which means it's traceable, it's trackable. Anything you do that involves any kind of transaction that gets transmitted to a computer means it has the potential to be tracked. Your privacy is at risk right now, but the government doesn't have their direct hands on it. But nonetheless, a CBDC, I fear, will tie those bonds between the commercial banking system and the Federal Reserve. And I think that means that it is going to make it a greater risk and temptation for the feds to be able to track data on the guise of trying to prevent crime. And it says here that in the intermediated CBDC model that the Federal Reserve would consider, intermediaries would address privacy concerns by leveraging existing tools. Interesting. All right. So the prevention of financial crimes. Relatedly, the financial institutions must comply with a robust set of rules that are designed to combat money laundering and the financing of terrorism. These rules include customer due diligence, record keeping, and reporting requirements. As noted above, any CBDC would need to be designed in a manner that facilitates compliance with these rules. Intermediate models for a U.S. CBDC have the distinct advantage of involving private sector partners with the established programs to help ensure compliance with these rules. And that sounds relatively reasonable on the surface. I say relatively because when you take into account what Congress has already proposed, well, and already right now, you are required to report anything over $600 from PayPal and other exchanges essentially out there. Anything over $600 must be reported, and you must set up your tax information so that those transactions will be flagged so that you get that 1099. And so it's a way for them to gather taxes. And already right now, we're hearing about potentially the IRS having biometric data where you have to scan in some of your biological information, eyes, irises, that type of thing, facial recognition, kind of like what Apple does. I just kind of saw the headline on that, and Eric had sent me some information about that. Nonetheless, that is kind of where things are. So let's get to the questionnaire. Let's see what they have to say about this. And we'll kind of breeze through these fairly quickly, sort of tongue-in-cheek here. What additional potential benefits, policy considerations, or risk of a CBDC that may exist that have not been raised in this paper? Well, I think that a lot of it is privacy. I don't know if there's any benefits to it other than just essentially you are using a digital currency that's backed by a blockchain of some sort. But nonetheless, I think the risk outweigh for the consumer, but not for you guys at Federal Reserve, because you will be able to have access to all of our transactions. Whether you say you're going to see them or not, you will be able to see them, and even as such through the intermediary partners, which is the commercial banking system. And so therefore, that ledger system will be under the control of the Federal Reserve. So they'll be able to see it all, kind of like the Patriot Act and the NSA can supposedly see our consumer data when we make phone calls and the like. Some say they can see a whole lot more than that. They keep a record of it, but they don't necessarily tap into it. 2, could some of all the potential benefits of CBDC be better achieved in a different way? Yes, I think they could. The blockchain can be used to constrain or to restrict the Federal Reserve through tying it to gold, and that gold can be tracked through the blockchain. And but we'd have to have some sort of gold standard in order to achieve that, or some other rules-based monetary system. But they'll never go for that for sure. Could the CBDC affect financial inclusion? Would the net effect be positive or negative for inclusion? What does that mean? Financial inclusion? To me, that sounds like some of the environmental, the governance that they're talking about, and social ESG. And in other words, we're going to see woke banking, wokeism being affected, and also punishment for those who don't meet environmental and social and governance that they deem to be the right way to go. People will be punished. So it definitely could affect financial inclusion, indeed. How might the U.S. CBDC affect the Federal Reserve's ability to effectively implement monetary policy in the pursuit of its maximum employment and price stability goals? Well, they just digitize more of it. Do what they do now, but with a central bank digital currency, they have even more reign to do what they want to do. In its pursuit of maximum employment and price stability goals, well, they're not meeting it now. The Federal Reserve is definitely not doing what its role is supposed to be. They're grossly ineffective, I feel, in that area. How could a CBDC affect financial stability? Would the net effect be positive or negative for stability? Well, good luck. Many people don't feel like the Federal Reserve is doing that now. How is digitizing our dollars in a blockchain going to be any different? Number 6, could the CBDC adversely affect the financial sector? How might the CBDC affect the financial sector? Sure, it puts them more in control, and the financial sector kind of less in control, I believe. Anyways, we could go on and on through this, but nonetheless, I think there was one other question here about security. Here it is. How could the CBDC provide privacy to consumers without providing complete anonymity and facilitating illicit financial activity? It can't, or it won't. They don't know how to do that. And so therefore, I believe, that question right there alone means that was what they're going to use this for. They're going to use it as a tool in order to fight illicit financial activity. And so therefore, it is. Should CBDC be legal tender? Well, the Federal Reserve is involved in it. I guess it will be legal tender if they get Congress to approve it. So yes, you get Congress to sign off on it, and the president to sign it, then yes, it will happen for sure. Nonetheless, there it is. Interesting indeed. That pulls us to the final aspect of this video, why gold and silver matter more now than ever, because gold and silver are untrackable, untraceable. Once they are in your hands, they are what they are. There have been money for thousands of years, and I think more people will see that, and the more people that see that and understand that, and maybe even you might see some underground transactions in gold and silver more and more. In fact, we already have the gold back, which is circulating in some areas for some businesses for transactions. I might think we think we very well could see more and more of that. More places will start to accept sound money for transactions. And I think that's wonderful. I think that'd be a great thing to do, and it will show the true value of what gold and silver have been for thousands of years. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch this video. Thanks again to Silver Patriot for sending this along to me. I want to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.